Hello. It is probably not warm enough to be wearing this dress, but I'm here now, so we're just going to go with it. Speaking of dresses, I was hoping to show you a dress this week. I cleared off my table, because I have one table, and I got the loom off because I'd finished what I'd been weaving, cleared the table, taped together a pattern, cut it all out, and then when I grabbed the fabric that I wanted to use, I realised I didn't have enough fabric by quite a long way. And I knew that I didn't have enough. I was planning to patchwork in a complementary fabric so that it would look like I'd designed it that way. But because I had a significantly smaller amount of fabric than I thought I did, the plan wasn't going to work. And normally I can just kind of go, well, we'll think of something else and let's dig through the stash and see what else is there. But yesterday, for whatever reason, my brain just went, we're not dealing with this today. We can't, there's no possible way that we can fix this problem today. I don't feel like pivoting. So instead, I warped up the loom again. So I'll show you what's on that in a minute. But last week, I had this, which hadn't been wet finished. And it doesn't look particularly different because there's no texture or anything. There's no varied shrinkage, but it is done. The yarn has bloomed a little bit. I'll step back. So blooming is just swelling up or sort of spreading a little bit, expanding, and it fills in the gaps between the warp and the weft. So it hasn't done it completely, but there is some bloom there, so it has filled in a bit. This is predominantly acrylic, so acrylic doesn't tend to bloom, but there is a little bit of wool in there as well that has bloomed. So that looks pretty much the same as it did last week, but it is finished. Now, I also had ribbons on the loom, so let me fold this up neatly and get it back in my bag, and I'll show you how the ribbons came out. Not wet finished, obviously, because that's not how I work. Sometimes I do wet finish before I record a video, but not very often. There is a truck. I'm going to ignore it because there's been a lot of trucks today and I had to keep stopping. Anyway, this is the ribbons. So that has come out like that. I'll show you close up because the front texture looks like that. So it is just the ribbons caught with one weft each. And then on the other side it looks like that. We've got the weft floats there creating the ribbon floats on the front. I haven't done anything with the fringes. I'm going to trim those after I've wet finished because I want them all to be the same length. And I don't want any shrinkage to impact the length of the cotton versus the ribbon. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm talking through my hat. I'm not actually wearing a hat, but if I was, I'd be talking through it. So that looks like that. There will be a significant change, I think, when I wet finish this because the cotton will probably shrink, but this is actually two different cottons. I've got two different shades of blue happening here, but I think I'm getting away with it. So the cotton will shrink, but it will shrink at two different rates because the warp is plain cotton and the weft is a cotton bamboo blend. So there will be shrinkage. It will be varied shrinkage. I don't know how this is going to look. I'm illustrating shrinkage by doing that, which is very clear. So I'll show you this next week. It will be different. I don't know if it'll be significantly different or if it will just be a little bit different, but it will be different. But for the time being, it looks like that, and I really quite like it. So I'm pleased with how that came out. So I will show you what I put on the loom yesterday when I gave up on sewing. As is tradition on Work in Progress Wednesday, this is very fresh on the loom. There's my hem stitching. So this is a couple of yarns that I had in my stash that I thought it was time to use up. Like the rest of my stash, it is also time to use all of that up. I'm doing my best. I'm just going slow. So for the warp here, I've got Heirloom Alpaca 8-ply. I don't know what this was left over from. I had a ball and a half left over, and I cannot remember what I did with it. Probably something in crochet. I don't think I wove with it, but I might have. I can't be expected to remember everything. And then for the weft, I've got Taradale by Emotive Yarns. Now this is a wool and soybean mix, a blend. It's really nice and soft. It's got a little bit of a sheen to it, which is lovely. I found this in the discount basket at my local yarn store, along with a purple and grey variant, which I crocheted a scarf from, which I would show you, but I cannot find it. Maybe I'll show you next week. That gives me a week to find things. So I went and had a look online to see what other colourways they have, and they don't, because Emotive Yarns has folded. They no longer exist. They're not making anything. And I talk a lot about manufacturers' knots in yarn, but when I was, the other ball of this I was winding it into a cake before I used it, and I discovered this, which is, you know, the manufacturer's knot to end all knots. So maybe this is why Emotive Yarns are no longer in business, because they're sending out yarn like that. So I've had to cut around that, obviously. I mean, there is a knot in there, I've just noticed. There is an actual knot in there. I hadn't noticed that. I thought it was just an exciting tangle. Anyway, so I've got to figure out what to do once this shuttle is empty and I'm loading the rest of that ball onto this shuttle. I won't be able to colour match, so I'm figuring out what I'm going to do with that, either maybe blending by a few rows. I've got a little bit of this alpaca left over. I could put a few rows of that in just to break it up. I haven't decided. We will find out next week. We will find out together next week what I ended up doing. And while we're here, there is a little bit of progress on the little loom. I am loving my little loom. I don't know that I'm loving this yarn. So it is coming along. I hope to get it off the loom soon because I've got some other things I want to put on this loom that I might enjoy more. But in the meantime, this is how the rainbow scarf is looking. And of course, the last thing to show you this week is Temperature Snake, which is up to date till the end of October. So is that? Yes, that's in shot. So Snake is coming along very nicely. Snake is very nearly as long as I am tall. Another few days for November and it will be my height, but in length. Yeah, this makes sense. It makes sense. If I just keep talking quickly enough, no one will notice I didn't make sense. So that is sort of the Melbourne spring experience, with some quite warm days followed by some very cold days, and then just kind of middling, and then we go quite warm again and then just middling. So it's middling again today, but it will be warming up shortly as we enter summer. Oh, not looking forward to it because I'm grumpy in the heat, but that's a problem for me and the people around me. That's not a problem for you. So there is Temperature Snake up to date till yesterday, which was the end of October. It's November, sorry, but it is. And I will show you Snake again next month when I've done November, and maybe I'll put some eyes on it. I'm beginning to find it, now that we're like more than 10 months into the year, finding it a little disconcerting to not have any eyes on my snake, so I might pop some eyes on before next month. Then again, I might not. I don't know. I'm unpredictable. That's not true. I'm quite predictable. I'm very predictable. You can probably predict that next week I will show you some weaving. Anyway, that is all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.